Hello, this is Ann Tucker. I'm talking with Todd Corbin, Parent Path founder, about breakthroughs that he's had surrounding his children and what they've taught him. So, Todd, how are you today?
Doing great. Thanks, Ann.
Good. So Todd and I are going to chat a little bit about some things, some breakthroughs he's had in consciousness that his younger son, Will, has helped him uncover. Would you like to share some of those with us?
Sure. Yeah, the biggest thing I've found, and one of the most huge breakthroughs that I've had in my life as a parent of a different kid is to allow the energy to flow. And what I mean by that is, these kids, a lot of them, basically all kids throw tantrums. And, kids that have some sensory issues and various things, sometimes their tantrums are ultra intense and ultra long. And as a parent, what I always would do is, like a good parent, you got to try to stop it. You got to protect the child. Oh my God, he's freaking out. Got to stop it, especially if it's in public. It's one thing if it's in your house, but if it's in public, God, I'm going to look like a horrible parent. I'm letting him scream his head off or do this or that or throw, things around. So I used to fall into the trap of trying to stop him, trying to appease him. Oh, that's okay. Stop. What's going on here? Try to redirect. Try to change his focus. And sometimes that works. Okay, there's no question. Sometimes it works, but it's a short-term fix. And it wasn't really until I started realizing the power of letting the energy flow. And so, as a parent, in order to do this, you have to be pretty grounded. You have to be pretty, your foundation has to be pretty strong so that you can pretty much watch your child freak out for a longer period of time.
Absolutely. And that is hard. I know that's hard because it's so uncomfortable to be around. You just want to make it stop. So I hear you. I get it.
Thanks. It really is. So you just have to have an inner fortitude of, this is who I am. My child is safe. Okay, you will always want to make sure your child is safe. I mean, certainly if he's freaking out and hurting other people, you got to intervene that way. But we'll just say that the situation is such that he's not harming anybody else in the outer environment.
Right.
So what I've realized with Will especially is if I let him continue his freak out, intense, and sometimes not even sure why he gets upset, kid with sensory issues, sometimes it's just overstimulated in certain areas, too much energy flowing, and he's picking up too much stuff, and it's okay. So, one instance that happened when he was about 6.5 really sticks in my mind because this is the first time I actually allowed it to happen, allowed the energy to flow. And he got upset with his brother. I don't exactly know what was happening. He got so upset he started dumping the plants on the floor, throwing all the couch cushions across the room, threw a cereal bowl on the floor. I mean, everything. Big mess. Mm-hmm. And we don't have a lot of rules in my house, but one of the rules we always have is, if you make a mess, it's your responsibility eventually to clean it up. And he was just so out of sorts, he didn't want anything to do with cleaning anything up. And at the time, I had a phone call to make, and he was safe in the house, and I knew he was just crying and just yelling and still throwing the cushions back and forth. And I said, Will, I said, it's okay. You know what? I said, I don't know what sets you off. And I said, it's not important what sets you off. It's important eventually that you come back to center. And, I was giving him space. I said, you're safe. I said, if you need me, I'm going to go upstairs. And, he was okay. He was still throwing the pillows around or whatever. And, again, in our house, it's the responsibility to clean up. So he started trying to clean up. Because after about 30 minutes, he realized, oh, my God, look at this. The dirt from the plants are all over the floor. I'm going to have to figure that out. So he got the vacuum out. He
bless his heart.
He was having a hard time. I mean, he couldn't even figure out how to plug in the vacuum when you're that intensely emotional. I mean, he couldn't. So I helped him do that, and I'm like, okay, you get you started here. And he was having a hard time putting the couch cushions on or whatever. So eventually, he got everything cleaned up. It was over an hour of this. But I was in a place where I was like, okay, I took a couple deep breaths. I said, I'm going to just allow him to experience that intense emotion. Hour goes by. He cleans everything up, or to his ability, he cleans it up fine. And I hear him go in his room, and the door closes. And I happen to be on the phone on a conference call with some other parent friends of mine. And about 10 minutes later, he comes in. He doesn't even come in. He sort of like peeks in and slips a note under my door, because my door was cracked so he could look into it. And it was the interesting thing. So I pull his note out and I look at it. And here is the note, and it says, "Dad, I love you, even though when I'm being mean to you."
Mm-hmm.
And it was the neatest thing.
Yeah.
What really hit me, and in fact I shared with the people on the call at that moment, and everybody was like, oh my gosh. They felt the energy rush. Because what happened was I allowed this child to let the energy flow to a point where, if you talk about like brain science, where he was out in his amygdala, he was just lost it for a long time. And I allowed him to calm down, so the prefrontal cortex, the front part of his brain, the thinking brain, the rational mind, was able to go in there and say, wow, you know what, I don't have all this energy. You know what, I was really mad. I still love my dad. I still love my family. And he articulated by writing me a note. Again, he's 6.5, and it was just brilliant. Now, here's the thing.
You know what go ahead.
No,
I don't want to interrupt you, but what I think is so great about that is that your groundedness and your mindfulness and peacefulness and being able to be in the moment with something ugly happening in front of you allowed him a really big learning experience. And I think sometimes as parents, we want so badly for our kids to be comfortable and not upset that we almost, when my kids were doing stuff like that, I'd be on eggshells trying to make them not be tantrumy and give them whatever they needed to stop it. But when you just kind of allow it to flow through, it's done, it's over with. And it's harder to be the parent who walks on eggshells trying to suppress it, because that emotion is going to be let out somewhere, some way, somehow. So you might as well write it out in the moment. So that's what I thought was beautiful about it. Go ahead, Todd.
Yeah. No, thank you. That the biggest thing also. Now, here's what could have happened if I tried to stop that behavior. Say I appeased him. Say, I sat down on the couch, helped him clean everything up, and redirected. Will, you want to play a game? Will, let's go outside and go on a bike ride. Those were all fine responses, okay? Parents do that all the time. There's no problem with that. But what I would have stopped is his recognition of, wow, I was out of sorts. So he got some emotional management and able to, intelligently manage the emotion of freaking out in his nervous system, in his body, and he responded by writing me a note. If I stopped it, he would have never had that recognition. So he has that in his memory now, in his consciousness of next time I freak out.
This is what it feels like. Yeah.
Right. It's what it feels like. My dad allows it to continue if it's safe, and I can move through it rather than stop it, because if I stopped it again, the energy of that emotion would still have been there, and he probably, when his brother got home, he would have picked a fight with him and got real intense again, and I would have stopped it again. So it had this going on, and it's like, you need a relief valve. We have an old home, and it has a radiator in the house, and you know what? If the steam, as it builds up, it has to have a valve to release the hot air, and if it doesn't, if it's broken, it builds up and it blows up. So that's very important. So I gave Will basically a relief valve and let it flow.
Right. Todd, thank you so much for sharing that story with us. It's going to keep me more mindful when I see my kids getting edgy and stopping myself and letting them just go with the flow and let go of whatever needs to let off needs to get off. Thank you so much for.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It was wonderful. Thank you so much,
Great.
Anne.
You take care, Todd. Bye-bye.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.